All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Now Morning Show right here on TTT. Now we're going to go across to Tobago. We're going to be chatting with Ambassador Nickocy Phillips, who is the founder of TT Youth Will Rise. And Ambassador has been in contact with the UN and all those things, the events that they host to raise awareness for different issues and topics as well. Now we're speaking on the annual UN Commission on the Status of Women conference, but that was cancelled due to the coronavirus. But there were two virtual conferences, and Nickocy was a part of that. So let's find out from Nickocy what had taken place. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Karen. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Great to see you again.
Good to see you again.
All right, so let's go into the topic. So the actual conference was canceled because of all the things surrounding the coronavirus. Yes, correct. But there were two video conferences. How did those go, and how did you...
Yes, there were two video conferences on the 3rd of March. There were the Feminist and Women Action Plan Thematic Working Group virtual conference, and the topic of this was the environmental conservation, the protection and rehabilitation of women, where they would have highlighted the Beijing platform for action, critical areas of concern, which is the woman and the environment, human rights of women, the girl and child, and women and health of the CEDAW and SOG targets. They would have spoke about how Beijing women now are in regards to human rights, the girl and the young child, what rights they have and what is and what should not be. And we briefly did some questions and answers. Also, Pink Africa Foundation, they would have asked me to make sure shed some light or to do a presentation on one of their topics, which was the reproductive health, a workshop on the access to women's menstruation,
right.
the challenges of menstrual hygiene management in Africa. Because in Africa, the treatment, the focus is there aren't any female toilets in some of the African schools, and there are also some of these young girls don't have a sense of education about the menstrual hygiene, where reproductive health first starts. So we were having a good dialogue, and she would have, suggested that this is one of the topics that they wanted to take to the UN this year. Unfortunately, because of this, it couldn't happen. But we're still having the conversation where she wants us to partner and to see where we could also put it, because I explained to her, I said in our toilets here, or most of our female or government institutions, there are female bins. But what she wants to do is to have in all African countries, not only female toilets, but the female um, menstrual items or materials for these young girls who are coming up, because they don't understand about the menstrual hygiene and the health that it brings.
Right.
And also they can't afford some of the items. So we're working on a plan or something that we could take or send to the UN still and send across to global, that they could have this now installed in all secondary schools or all universities to help assist the young women and young girls with some of these female items. So the conference was very good. It was brief. We're still having dialogue, and those are one of the two virtual conferences that I would have had with them.
Right. So, being a part of that and having, been a part of the discussion, what would you say is the takeaway that can be translated into Trinidad and Tobago, and something that we could also learn from in these discussions?
Well, we could learn a lot of things. For example, really menstrual health in women and young girls is something that is a topic that should also be done in schools, in educating them about their menstrual health hygiene. Because, sometimes there's an odor, there's a scent. First time, I think one time in school back then, we heard an uproar, people laughing, screaming, and pointing at somebody. One of the girls, she would have seen her cycle and did not know what the cycle was or anything, and they were using that as a laughing matter, laughing stock. So I think educating some of these young girls, when your cycle comes, what happens, what to do, how to what clothes to wear, how you attire yourself. It's something that we could take to start to teach our young girls, and some of the organizations and NGOs should, I know they have the etiquette classes and stuff, they could have that as well. Notwithstanding, not only this, the gender-based violence, and I would like to commend the TTPS for their gender-based violence unit, But again, based on that interview, I would have heard them focusing again. And Carrie, I'm sure you hear me say every time
Yeah,
that gender-based unit is not just about the female and the protection of females, but
correct,
it's also about the protection of men.
correct.
And we're not hearing that, and we're not hearing the emphasis on that. Gender is not just defined for women, it is defined for men and women and all different types of genders that we're not associating or we're not speaking about in this country.
Right.
And we are too silent on some of these things, and it's about time we have a clear definition again, following the United Nations laws and its recommendations to gender and the definition of gender. I think it's time we have this conversation about the definition of gender. And I hope that the TTPS would involve and would put a little more emphasis on the protection of men as well.
And, you know, of course, it would take education and sensitizing and continuing that conversation. But with that, we are unfortunately out of time, Ambassador, but I want to thank you for joining us once more, keeping us updated
No
on the
problem
work
at
that
all.
you're doing, and flying the mantle high there and, you know, doing the work on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. Chatting with me this morning,
Thank you so
Ambassador.
much. Not a problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, as usual. Chatting with me this morning, Ambassador Nickocy Phillips, founder of TT Youths Will Rise, who has for some time been a part of a number of UN conferences and such, which could add value and education to our country as well. All right, we're going to take a short break and come back with much more, so stay right where you are.